Diep woke as the first light of dawn appeared, with its early rays piercing through the gap in the simple thatched roof of the farmhouse at the farm. She stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the fresh air and feeling the tranquility this place brought after the long days of confinement in Pyre's violent home. She whispered to herself, "Today is a new day at James's farm. Here the scenery is so peaceful." Diep smiled softly, her heart filled with hope despite the lingering emotional wounds. She walked over to Haki, the small dog she had brought from Pau's house, who was curled up amid a pile of dry grass. "Good morning, Haki," Diep said gently, reaching out to stroke his fluffy fur. "I'll tend to the chickens first, then I'll cook some porridge for you." Haki looked up at her, his little tail wagging gently in response. Diep smiled. "Are you okay? You must be very hungry, right?" She knelt down, gazing into the dog's large, round eyes as if understanding its yearning. "When you're hungry, you let me know, don't you? Just wait a moment. I'll have some porridge ready for you in no time." Diep then stood up and headed toward the nearby chicken coop. The chickens, left behind by the previous tenant, were clucking noisily, demanding food. She grabbed a handful of rice from an old sack and scattered it on the ground, murmuring as she worked, "I only know how to make porridge for Haki. Besides porridge, I don't have enough money to buy anything else for him. I'll go work to earn money so I can cook better meals for both of us, Haki. Just wait for me, all right?" Suddenly, Haki darted off, running into the vegetable bed she had planted just yesterday and biting at a few young shoots. Startled, Diep shouted, "Haki, what are you doing?" She quickly ran over and pulled him out of the vegetable bed, reproachfully but with a hint of amusement, saying, "You've ruined my garden." Haki let out a few small yelps, almost as if apologizing, which made Diep laugh. "Be good now, and wait for me a little while," she said, patting his head before returning to the kitchen to stoke the fire. She took a small amount of rice from the bag James had left, poured it into the boiling water and stirred it well. "There we go," Diep whispered as the porridge finished cooking. She scooped it into a chipped porcelain bowl, allowed it to cool, and then set it before Haki. "Enjoy your meal," she said, watching the dog eat heartily with satisfaction. Once done, Diep returned to the vegetable garden, deciding to tidy up and sow some of the seeds James had purchased for her the day before. She picked up a hoe and carefully tilled the soil, thinking as she worked, "Today I'll clean up the garden a bit and then sow some seeds. The weather here is so unpredictable. Winter has already arrived. Everyone remember to wear warm clothes." Pausing to wipe the sweat from her brow, she mused, "I also need to work to save up for a warm coat." With that thought, she resumed her work, using the empty patch of land beside her to create a new vegetable bed. After a while, she sat on the grass to catch her breath, exclaiming, "I need a little break." Meanwhile, at a woodworking factory located several dozen kilometers from the farm, James was busy with his work. He entered the production area where workers were busily operating machinery. A neatly dressed middle-aged man approached James and extended his hand. He introduced himself. "I'm Siu, the owner of a company that specializes in purchasing wood for export to Thailand. Today I'm here to source a large quantity of wood for export." James nodded and replied, "That's right, I'm James, the chairman of C Company. We're very pleased to cooperate with partners like you." Siu smiled and led James deeper into the workshop. "I'm currently circulating through various factories to source our supply. Most of the wood we transport comes by container truck," he explained. James nodded. "Our company also cooperates with many major partners, primarily exporting to China. However, we hope to expand into other countries, including Thailand." Siu grunted in agreement. "That's right. It's very challenging, but we already have a contact in Thailand. I'm here today to discuss a long-term cooperation." James then guided Siu to view the production area. "Every month, our factory produces 5 container loads of wood," he said, gesturing toward neatly stacked piles of glued wood. "Besides this, we also have 2 other workshops in another village." Siu nodded with satisfaction. "Hello there, I already spoke via Zalo with your manager Tuan before coming here." James smiled. "Hello Siu, today we will sign the contract. How many containers of wood do you export each month?" Siu replied, "About 30-40 containers, with each load weighing around 70 tons. Can your side handle that?" James turned to Tuan, the factory manager standing nearby. "Tuan, how many days a week do the workers come in?" Tuan answered, "Sir, currently we allow the workers more rest days because we haven't secured a stable export partner yet. If they worked full-time, we could reach 70 containers per month." James nodded. "Then we can definitely meet that. Let's have a quick tour of the workshop." James and Siu strolled past the machinery area. Tuan introduced, "This is our wood peeling machine, which helps produce those beautiful planks. Our equipment is currently among the most advanced." James added, "It's raining today, so the workers are stacking the wood this way to keep it dry. When the sun comes out, they'll air dry it." Siu observed, "I can see that the quality of your planks is very good and meets our company's standards." James nodded. "Shall we sign the contract then?" They returned to a small office within the workshop. James sat down and pushed the pre-prepared contract towards Siu. "Please have a look," he said. Siu took the paper and read it carefully. "The terms you've outlined are very reasonable. I have no questions." James smiled. "That's great. Tuan, please offer Siu some water." Tuan placed 2 cups of water on the table. "Here you are, gentlemen." Siu signed his name and pushed the contract back toward James. "Thank you for your trust and choosing us," James said as he signed his name. "I wish us a successful cooperation." Siu smiled. "The contract is signed. I'll send the other details via Zalo later. Tuan will assist me a lot." James nodded. "Tuan is in charge of this wood workshop. Please work directly with him. I'm quite busy with other production matters." Siu stood up. "If you're busy, we'll arrange another time for a meal together." James shook his hand. "I wish us a successful cooperation. Tuan, please help get Siu to the vehicle." Tuan nodded and led Siu away. James sat back down, looking out at the grey sky. He murmured, "It's getting cold. I suppose Diep doesn't have any warm clothes yet." Standing up, he decided, "I guess I need to take her shopping for new clothes." The thought made him smile, his heart full of the desire to take care of Diep, the woman toward whom he had gradually developed special feelings. At the farm, while Diep was busy tending to the vegetable garden, Haki suddenly dashed out, biting yet another young plant. She shouted, "Haki! What are you doing sneaking into my garden?" Rushing over, she pulled him out, her tone stern. "Don't go damaging my things. When will you learn to behave and get used to this environment? Then I'll let you roam free." Haki let out a few small whines, as if apologizing, which made Diep laugh. Just then James drove up and stepped out with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ms. Diep," he called, approaching. "What are you doing?" Diep looked up and smiled. "Hello, sir. I've planted some vegetables. The vegetables you gave me? I've already sown all the seeds." James looked around, surprised. "Oh, you even added an extra vegetable bed?" Diep nodded. "Yes, since there was extra space, I made use of it." James moved closer, his eyes full of concern. "I must tell you," he said gently. Diep looked up. "Do you have something on your mind?" James laughed. "It's really cold now. Let me take you out to buy some warm clothes." Diep shook her head. "No need. In a few weeks, when I start working, I'll buy them myself with the money I earn." James insisted. "I see it's really cold. How about this? I'll buy them for you first and you can pay me back later when you have the money." Diep hesitated, glancing down at her hands, red and swollen from the cold. She murmured, "No, thank you. When I start working, I'll be able to buy them myself." James stepped closer and pointed at her hands. "Right now, it's very cold. Look at your hands, so swollen and chapped from the cold." Diep lowered her head and whispered, "Then could you give me credit for now?" James smiled. "All right, let me lock up. Please put away my knife." He turned back to the car and carefully locked it. Diep looked around. "Where's Haki?" James replied, "Perhaps he went off to play somewhere." Diep nodded. "I also want him to get used to this environment." James waved her off. "Let's go." He led her to the car, saying, "I know of a nearby shop that sells very nice clothes. We can stop by there." Diep worried. "I think buying from the market is fine too. I'm afraid it might cost too much in a shop." James smiled. "Don't worry, it's quite affordable there. Besides, I'll buy them for you. I'll pay, so you don't need to worry." Diep glanced down at her shabby, tattered clothes and asked softly, "Can I really dress like this?" James nodded. "All right, let's go." They got into the car, and James drove to a small but neat store in town. He opened the door and led Diep inside. "Hello," James called to the shop assistant. "May I ask if you have women's clothes here?" The shop assistant, a middle-aged woman with a bright smile, replied, "Buying for your girlfriend? Please, come on in." James turned to Diep. "Do you like these sweaters?" He pointed to a red sweater hanging on the rack. Diep shook her head. "I don't really like that one." James nodded. "Then take a look at whichever suits you. Feel free to choose." Diep walked around and looked at a short-sleeved shirt. "This one is too short." James pointed to a long-sleeved blue shirt. "How about this one? Or maybe this?" He gently pulled her toward another corner. "Come over here." Diep stopped in front of a simple grey jacket and James asked, "Do you think this one suits you? I think it looks great on you." Diep hesitated. "I'm afraid I'll get the jacket dirty." James laughed. "Try it on, miss, please, try it on." The shop assistant responded, "Feel free to try them on." Diep took the jacket and stepped into the fitting room. When she emerged, she stood awkwardly before the mirror. James looked at her. "I think you look very beautiful. How do you see yourself in the mirror?" Diep gazed at her reflection, her eyes red from tears. James was taken aback. "What's wrong?" Diep, choked with emotion, replied, "I'm truly moved because you always care about me." James gently said, "Come now, don't cry, let's take this jacket." He turned to the shop assistant. "Miss, please wrap this up for me." Diep wiped away her tears. "Let them pay. I'll choose more clothes for you later." James led Diep to the clothing section. "There are still plenty of beautiful shirts here. Choose whichever you like, maybe something like these." Diep shook her head. "All right then, I just need to buy an extra pair of pants." They moved to the pants section, and James pointed to a pair of black trousers. "How about these?" Diep nodded. "I like black." James picked them up. "Then let's take these." The seller calculated the total. The pants are 1,800,000 VND. The shirts are 5,200,000 VND, making a total of 700,000 VND. James nodded. "I'll transfer the money." He quickly took out his phone and made the payment. "Thank you very much," James said to the seller, then turned to Diep. "I'll also buy you a new pair of sandals. Yours are old now, so while we're at it, I'll get them for you." Diep shook her head. "I think my sandals are still okay." James pointed to a pair of woven brown sandals. "Which ones do you like? You can choose." Diep hesitated. "I like this pair, is that all right?" James nodded. "I think it's fine, I like them." The seller quoted a price. "This pair is 500,000 VND. "Since winter is coming, let me also get you a few pairs of warm socks," James asked. "How much is this one?" The seller replied, "It's the same price. I've sent the details. Please check if you received them." The seller nodded. "Yes, indeed." James then turned to Diep. "Get in the car." Diep followed, softly saying, "Thank you so much. With the money you spent on my clothes, once I start earning, I'll pay you back." James shook his head. "No need at all. Actually, just consider this a gift from me. It doesn't cost much to me." He smiled. "One day, let's come here and have a drink together." Diep nodded. "Are we here already?" James stopped the car in front of a small yet elegant cafe. "Let's stop here. Please, have a seat." Diep sat down and looked around with curious eyes. James asked, "What would you like to drink?" Diep shook her head. "I'm not sure what to have." James smiled. "Then I'll order the best dish here for you. Miss, could you please take our order?" The server approached. "What would you like?" James replied, "Give me a black coffee and a taro milk tea." The server nodded and walked away. James looked at Diep. "Don't you think this place is beautiful?" Diep marveled. "It's very lovely. I've never been to a place like this before." She pointed to a small fir tree on the table. "What is this pretty little tree?" James explained, "This is a Christmas tree for decoration. However, it's just an artificial one." Diep smiled. "Today, I'm very happy that you bought clothes for me and took me to such a classy place. Thank you for everything. Once I earn some money, I promise I'll pay you back." James gently said, "Actually, I've wanted to buy clothes for you for a long time but never had the chance. I also want to do even more good things for you. Besides, winter is coming and it will be very cold." Diep nodded slightly, her eyes shimmering with emotion. The server brought the drinks and placed them on the table. "Here are your drinks," she said. James nodded, "Thank you very much." Diep took the taro milk tea, sipped a bit. "It's very good." Curious, she asked, "What are you drinking?" James replied, "I'm having coffee. Each drink has its own unique taste." Suddenly, a sour voice echoed from behind. "Oh, why is the boss hanging out with that filthy, shabby girl?" A young, stylishly dressed woman with curly hair approached the table of James and Diep, her cold, disdainful eyes scrutinizing Diep from head to toe. Then she smirked. "Hello, boss. So you're free today to come out and have a drink, huh? Wait, Hella. And who might you be, boss?" She pointed at Diep with a suspicious tone. James looked at the young woman and replied, "Oh, this is my girlfriend." The woman was momentarily stunned but quickly regained her haughty composure and sneered, "Boss, you really have nothing better to do today, huh?" She then turned to Diep. "What's your name?" Diep hesitated. "My name is Diep." The woman curled her lip. "So you're really his girlfriend?" Diep lowered her head in a soft voice. I'm just a friend of James." The woman burst into loud, cutting laughter. "It's better if you're just a friend. You look so unappealing. He's the chairman of a major company. How could he ever be interested in you? He only pities you." James stood up. "Stay here. I need to take this call." He stepped outside, leaving Diep to face the woman. The woman advanced closer, her tone menacing. "Let me tell you something. Only I deserve to be his lover. You're a woman who's been through a failed marriage. How could he possibly notice you? I know James is a good man, but with you it's only out of pity." Diep bowed her head, tears welling up. but the woman did not relent. She laughed scornfully. If you know your place, you'd stay away from him. A woman who can't bear children and has been abandoned by her husband, no wonder. You're utterly pathetic. I feel sorry for you. Inwardly, she sneered. How could you even dare to dream of James? A wretched nobody like you is only fit to serve as my stepping stone to shine. Diep said nothing as tears streamed down her cheeks. James returned upon hearing her cry and quickly asked, Hey, what's wrong, Diep? Why are you crying? Choking up, Diep stood up and cried, Please, stop pretending to treat me well. I don't deserve any of that. She shoved her chair aside and ran out. James chased after her, calling out, Why are you leaving? Don't cry. What's going on with you? Diep paused and turned away, just, Don't treat me so kindly. James approached and took her hand. Please, don't cry. What happened? What did she say to you? Diep burst into tears. You just pity me, don't you? You see how poor I am. You only feel sorry for me, right? James frowned. Why would you say that? Did she really say those things to you? Why do you think that about me? Diep lowered her head. Because I feel I don't deserve to be with you. James squeezed her hand firmly, his voice resolute. Whether you deserve it or not is for me to decide. I think we've spent too long living by other people's judgments. Let's live for ourselves, just as I like you. I don't pay any mind to what others gossip about you. I only care about what my heart desires and where it leads. Looking up through her still falling tears, Diep asked, Aren't you ashamed of being with someone like me? James shook his head. Not at all. I chose to be with you. Whether it's right or wrong, it's my decision. Drawing her close, he continued, I don't care what others say about you. All that matters is that my heart is set on you. I'm too busy to waste time pitying you. Even though I'm very busy, I still make time to see you. I hope you understand. Diep wiped her tears and nodded slightly. James smiled. Now, let's go home. They got into the car and returned to the farm in silence. When they arrived, James opened the door and handed Diep her bag. Thank you for today's drink, he said. I'm very happy. Diep nodded. Is Haki hungry yet? She scooped some cold rice from a pot, mixed it with a bit of the food James had brought home, and placed it in front of Haki. Here's your food. And these are some socks too, James said as he handed her a pair. Remember to wear them when you work. It's very cold. Diep nodded. Remember to wear that warm jacket often, okay? James smiled. Are you still hungry? Diep shook her head. I'm full now, thank you. James nodded. Then I'll go cook a little something for Haki. Diep interrupted. No, I can cook this myself. You go home, I need some time alone. James hesitated. If it's about what happened, please, don't worry about it. Diep shook her head. It's not that. I just want to be by myself. Please, go home. James sighed. All right then. I still have some reports to review. I'll head home now. Sleep well. Diep nodded. You too. James got out of the car with a heavy heart. As he left, Diep sat beside Haki, watching the dog eat, and whispered, Maybe that girl was right. He only pities me. In her mind, the mocking voice of the girl echoed, He only pities you. He helps you because you're poor. Only I deserve to be his girlfriend. Diep clutched her face as tears began to fall again. Haki, are you hungry? Wait for me a moment. She stood up, scooping a little more rice for Haki, feeling conflicted. Could it be that James actually likes me, she wondered, then shook her head. That girl, who knows if she's telling the truth? Diep looked out into the darkness, where James's taillights had faded, her heart aching with a mix of emotions. A new day began at the farm, but before the old storms could settle, a familiar figure appeared once again, bringing with her threats and insidious temptations. James, with his steadfast heart, would face a new challenge to protect the budding love, and Diep, torn by inner turmoil, would have to decide what to do when the past and present collide. Would a warm dinner by the fire be enough to dispel all doubts? Stay tuned for the next emotionally charged chapter of the story.
Giờ phải chứng minh cho bà ấy sai. Diệp gật đầu an ủi mạnh mẽ lắm Tiểu ca. Chị tin em sẽ vượt qua. Chị cũng từng như em, bị gia đình chồng coi thường, nhưng giờ chị tự lập được. Tiểu ca buồn cười. Cười buồn. Chị là tấm gương cho em, nhưng chị ơi, chị có biết chuyện gì lo lắng không? Mấy hôm nay em thấy chị hay ngẩn người, Diệp ngập ngừng, rồi thì thầm, em ơi, chị nghĩ mình có thể mang thai nhưng chị chưa. từng gần ai nên chị không hiểu nổi. Tieuca sững sờ, buột miệng, trời ơi, thật sao chị phải đi khám ngay. Em biết một bác sĩ ở thị trấn, anh Vinh bạn chồng của em, anh ấy tốt lắm, sẽ giúp chị. Diệp gật đầu giọng lo lắng. Cảm ơn em, chị sẽ đi nhưng chị sợ lắm Tieuca.